is most of the time they're just confused. So if you're laying on a surfboard, say, and one's under you, you kind of look like a fish.
Oh, yeah. Then they get hungry.
Right. It sees food, so it's going to test it. And then, you get blood in the water, and the shark smells that, and that sets off something upstairs that they eat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like piranhas.
They're natural hunters.
Yeah, you put your foot in a river, it has piranhas in it. You won't have a foot very long. The same way, you have any blood, that just dries. Sharks will eat each other when they get that frenzy going.
Right.
But that Jaws, what always scared me, not so much that good-looking girl that got ate up, at the beginning of the movie, but when the guy was, I don't know if that was the first Jaws, the second Jaws, where he's out there, the captain of that little boat, and you had the chief police and the other guy there. And at the end, the Jaws just, started eating the back of the boat, and the captain kind of like slid in its mouth, and that was the end of him.
Right. And that's a scene that sticks with a lot of people. However, the whole thing about that is it's just a very well acted scene. And that lapses into the realm of the absurd a little bit, but still pretty cool to watch.
Oh yeah, considering that actor almost died too because the shark malfunctioned.
Right.
So
that shark malfunctioned actually through the entire filming of the movie. Spielberg almost went over budget and had to stop filming that movie, so we almost didn't have a Jaws.
Well, then we went and had the other Jaws and all the other, follow-ups after that. And I'll tell you, that's during its time, it was probably I hate to say it, one of the scariest movies you could go see.
And I still shudder a little bit when I watch it, just to be honest.
Well, I just watched it again on TV a couple nights ago, and I tell you, I was going to watch it because I don't know how many times I've seen it since it's come out, and I go, I'm not going to watch it. But then, you know what? I flipped the channels, and all of a sudden I went right back, and I was glued to it.
Right. It's one of those old nostalgic things where you just can't look away.
Oh, yeah. So going from Jaws, what other movies out there that you thought were really, really good and scary?
Really good and scary lately or a while back?
Let's start a while back, and then we can kind of go forward.
A while back, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was pretty scary.
I knew you were going to say that. I just knew it.
The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was definitely pretty scary.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember seeing that when I was a teenager or whatever when it came out. And actually, I was in a drive-in theater. People, if don't know what drive-in theaters is that's where you go like basically to a cow pasture. It has speakers and a big screen, and you used to take your dates there and eat pizza and watch the movie, supposedly. But I remember taking a girl there with me to see that movie, and I tell you what, I didn't really watch the movie that much because it was so gory and scary. I couldn't.
It's funny you mentioned drive-ins. We actually still have a functioning drive-in in this town.
One of the very few. I got one about 20 miles from us, but that's about the only one, and probably in this. Well, there's 2 or 3 left in the state. They're just not there anymore.
We do. The 27 Twin Drive-In still exists. It still functions, and it still shows movies to this day.
Yeah, do people go in there that much? I know that this drive-in close to me, it's like a fourth filled. It's not like the old days, but, you have to blame that on the internet. I hate to say that. In any theater, the internet has just taken a big bite out of, going to a theater. But that going in a theater is what made the movie good. And nothing was better than having your popcorn and your soda and watching a gory, scary movie. All pitch black outside. It's scary.
Right. And a lot of people don't get that experience these days. A lot of people still go to the movies, but there are some people that just don't. If they can stream it at home, they'll stream it at home.
Oh yeah, and like I said, that is not the same thing as going, and being scared, outside and in nature and stuff like that. But yeah, they made what? Didn't they just make a few years ago a revamp of the original movie, Chainsaw?
They did, and they actually made a few sequels to it. And the first remake was good. I didn't have any problems with the first remake at all. I actually thought they did a really good job with it. The second one, it started to kind of get more cheesy than scary at that point. And then it rolled into the third one, which was Texas Chainsaw 3D, and then it just kind of lost something.
Well, who was the actor who was in the Marine Corps before he became an actor? He was a gunnery sergeant. And he's played a lot of, like drill, sergeant, scenes.
R. Lee Ermey.
Yeah. That was like a version of, wasn't it a Chainsaw Massacre in a way, or wasn't
it? Yeah, he was actually the police officer in the remake. And he actually added to it quite a bit.
Interesting.
Because he was basically hiding the fact that all this was going on.
Okay, but I thought it was one that they killed the police officer, and he put the uniform on as the sheriff, and then he was, bringing young ladies and stuff like that, and then, killing them, young people, and then
right.
And then his father or his father-in-law got hurt in the leg, so he took out the chainsaw and he cut the leg off, and he goes, well, I got to even it up, and I got to cut the other leg off, and he cuts the other guy, the leg off on the other side.
Right. That was actually the remake. He had actually taken the sheriff's job by killing him, so there wasn't really anybody to oppose that at the time in that town, so he just told everybody he was the sheriff.
And I guess they went along with it.
Right.
Now that one, I think that's when they kind of veered off a little. I thought off of the original ones. To me, doing things like cutting the guy's leg off, even it out, and some of those, it was more kind of comical to me, at least to my, with my warped sense of humor, than being so scary.
Right. And again, comedy does lend stuff to horror movies sometimes, but in that respect, that it can take away too.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And then moving away from that, what other movies that you enjoyed that people out there, it was a big hit out there? My idea of scary movies, I hate to say it, was being home on Friday or Saturday night and watching, I hate to say it, Frankenstein or Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, or or the old, B movies of the 50s that, I hate to say it, they were so bad that they actually were good.
Right. I actually sat down and watched This Island Earth the other day.
Now, what's that?
It's about a scientist that gets a device called the Interocitor, and it's the alien people kind of send it to him, and he puts it together, and if he can assemble it, they want him for this think tank to prevent a war, but they're actually trying to prevent a war on their planet as opposed to this one. And then they actually want our planet. So it's actually a pretty good movie. It's a fairly older film. It's, I think, maybe 50s, 60s.
Uh-huh.
It's actually really good, though.
Yeah, that's the problem with a lot of them. You can't find a lot of old ones that are actually good. Of course, they were working on a real tight budget, so, I hate to say it, you see these monsters or whatever in these old movies and stuff, and you start looking, for the zipper and the costume. That's what I usually do. I hate to say it.
And you do, and that's just part of it, though. I mean, with the budget they had, they did great with what they had, and it led to the things that we're watching now. So, I mean, nowadays we have special effects, stop motion, practical effects, CGI, things where the zippers aren't there. And it could be the same monster you watched 30 years ago, and this be a remake. But for that to have been the cheese it was years ago, it did bring this remake into a reality.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, and Hollywood seems like they're capitalizing more and more off old movies these days and doing remakes.
Well, yeah. I mean, some of those old movies had really good plots. It's just they didn't have the technology to really pull it off. I guess you have to look at the people in the 50s, right? Early 60s. I mean, to them, watching like The Creature from the Black Lagoon, for example, probably was scary to them. Now, when we watch it, we look at it and we kind of laugh because, you know, the graphics are so bad that the special effects really suck. I mean, they have come so far in special effects. And let's face it, the special effects nowadays on any movie makes the movie or it breaks the movie.
It definitely does. But the evolution of the scare, it's still the same scare. It's just done differently.
Well, I hate to say it, there's a lot more blood in all that stuff. And in the later movies, I mean, to the point, especially in the last couple of years, where they can just have blood just going every which way. So, I mean, actually, some of these movies, when I watch them, I kind of get nauseated because of the amount of blood. It's everywhere on the walls, floor, ceiling, over the person that's doing the killing. I don't know.
Right. And gore does have a good place in movies. I'm not going to down that at all. In fact, I enjoy gory movies at times. I've seen quite a few good ones lately.
Well, if a person wanted to see the top 5 scary, gory movies, which ones would it be?
The ones I would recommend, and I don't know if I have my own top 5, and I know it's going to sound weird. Cabin Fever.
Oh, yeah.
I actually just watched the remake to that this evening. And sadly, I prefer the original. It's about a group of people that end up at a cabin in the woods, and there's a virus that they catch that causes them to basically rot while they're there. And it's the effects in this movie are absolutely fantastic as far as gore goes. And it's also got one of a real cerebral thing that's not used in movies often to create fear. And that's getting sick.
Well, you know, the original Cabin Fever, I mean, I would rate that from a 1 to 10, a good solid 9, at least, you know, for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I really got into it.
I would give that one a 9.
Yeah. So what's lacking on the remake?
The remake didn't seem to have as much of that, and it seemed to be more geared towards, I want to say, maybe an audience that doesn't like the gore so much. I mean, it did have the gore in it, but there wasn't as much. It's like they toned the movie down to remake it.
Interesting. Now,
which is something they don't do very often. They focused a little more on storyline with this one.
So they had more of a plot to it than the original one, which that was, I have to be honest with, the original one was kind of lacking a little bit of the plot.
Right. And with that movie, and that's a prime example of sometimes you don't need a plot.
No. You really don't. On some of these movies, they don't even have a plot. You sit there and watch the movie and you go, "Oh my God, what did I just watch?"
Right. And another movie I can mention that I've watched, and I will sing the praises of this film all day long, is the movie Terrifier.
Now, what's that about? What's that about?
It's about 2 girls that get lost basically on Halloween. Their car breaks down, and there's a clown that just randomly shows up and torments them through the entire night. And some of the kills in this movie were just over the top creative, but there's definitely a lot of gore, and the Art the Clown is almost iconic these days.